Hello and welcome to the Rise and Shine with Alissa podcast. I am your hostess, the consultress, here bringing you amazing conversations with interesting people who've got a lot to say and who know their stuff. So, in this age of disruption where nothing is normal and everything is up for review and renewal, I'm bringing people here who have interesting things to say that help you inform how you make decisions about how to create your future, whether that's in entrepreneurship, in your parenting, or in your investment strategies, right? We all need to be able to invest in ourselves and our thinking to bring ourselves forward. And I have the pleasure and the privilege of meeting some of the coolest people on the planet and bringing them here to you. So without further ado, Hannah Kessler, welcome to Rise and Shine.
Well, thank you, Miss Alissa. It's good to be here. And I would even say I have the pleasure of talking with you, who is super, super cool and knowledgeable and intelligent too. So I just appreciate you having me on.
I mean, like attracts like. Let's high five that. I am so jazzed to have you because when we first met, it was at a real estate investor conference, and you were talking about the everyone's favorite topic, money. And I thought, this girl's up here presenting, doing her thing. And the first thing that caught my eye was your presentation style. Because as a speaker, I look and I'm like, oh, how are these people doing it? And you knew where you had to be, you knew what you were saying and how to make your body language speak to the topic. And I just loved that about you. Plus, I got the opportunity to chat with you and share a drink and then realize you're an awesome chick. So tell us a little bit about, who is Hannah Kessler?
Yes. So I do, okay, shameless plug as well. As of the new year, I do have a new book out called The Single Millionaire Chick. It's on Amazon, and I go through a lot of my story and my journey of how I gotten here. But, I grew up in the Kansas City area. I now live down here in Daytona Beach, Florida, which I love. I'm on beachside. I do my daily walks or even bike rides on the beach. But more specifically, I am really in the world of what's called the infinite banking concept. One of my mentors has always taught me that there's two businesses that you need to be in your life. The first business is the one that you're passionate about, supports the income, supports your lifestyle, the family. But then the second business is the banking business, the business that finances everything throughout your life. So since as a young girl, I'm really second generation into this concept where, my father was a chiropractor back in the day. That was actually my first ever job when I was 14 years old. I was working at one of Dad's chiropractic clinics, and being around him, other entrepreneurs and the patients that would come in, I learned a lot. But we started implementing this concept back in 2008. So ever since then, I've just grown up around this, the privatized banking, getting out of the banks, the government, and the Federal Reserve's hair, right? And you really coming in and taking that control. So since 18, I started my own bank and I became a millionaire by the time I was 24. And I'm 25 here as of this recording today. But I dropped out of school. I thought it was more fun going out there and making money than what it was sitting in class. So I just learned a lot, and really I just followed the people in my life that I saw their life, and I wanted that type of lifestyle, and I literally just mimicked and imitated exactly what they were doing. So short little background, but that's how I got here today.
Yeah. And so I think it's super cool that you had some awesome role models to follow. I think in our journeys as individuals, as we learn and grow through the different stages of our development, at first, when we're 1 to 7, we follow mom and dad. They're like sun, moon, and stars. They're all of our people. And then between like 7 and 14, we're like, they're pretty cool. And there's some awesome other people out there. And beyond that, it's like, okay, wait, there's a whole wide world out here. What else is out there? And we get this like taste for, trying things on and seeing how everybody else is doing things. And to me, in my evolution, that was a time when I started seeking other mentors, trying things out on my own, spreading my wings, and understanding that like there's no one right way to do stuff, but the best way to learn is to be immersed and to have direct access to people who are doing something cool that you're really interested in, so interested that you kind of like get obsessed with it, right?
Yes.
How did you find yourself with that obsession?
Yes, and I would say I've always had a very strong work ethic and drive. I just feel like I've always naturally had that, but I've always been a little different than my peers. I've just always wanted to go the opposite route than what everybody else was going. And, when you're growing up as a teenager, it's a little uncomfortable because you're not fitting that society norm of the popular kids and doing what all the popular people are doing, right? But honestly, where I'm at right now, I know I'm so much farther ahead than my peers just because of the decisions that I made when I was younger. Because I mean, here's one thing that my father has always taught me. He says, Hannah, do you want to party the rest of your, or excuse me, do you want to party the next 10 years and then work the rest of your life? Or do you want to work the next 10 years and then party and have fun the rest of your life? And I was like, okay, Dad, I think I want to go with option number two.
Yeah.
So I also have even learned like this year, I have outgrown some of my mentors too. I've had those people in my life that have really been helpful in getting me to where I'm at now. But then there kind of comes a time you're like, okay, this is great. This is fabulous. But then I also meet other people who are even like a step above, and you kind of spread your wings and you're going to the other communities and places and networks as well. And that's kind of a transition that's very recent here, because I would say my first and maybe favorite mentor ever is my father. But I really have gotten to that point where I've outgrown that. And now I'm looking for my own personal coaches, not just pops, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and you kind of have a double whammy there where you have a successful dad who was willing to take you under the wing and someone who kind of taught you the ropes so that you could build life on your own terms. For me, I mean, I have a similar like affinity for my dad, and there was this whole universe that he created. He was an immigrant. He worked his fingers to the bone, built a retail business, and then invested the profits in commercial and residential real estate. So like I saw this joie de vivre coming off this man and his work ethic and dedication that kind of informed me like at that fundamental level where sometimes you don't even know that that is who you are until there's contrast and you have some different experiences outside of that community, outside of that context, and you're like, oh wait, like that was informed by dad, and like this has some Alissa swagger on it, like this has some Hannah flavor in it, and that's really where we get to like embody who we really are becoming. And I
Yes.
love that, what you said about evolving and finding mentors at another level. And one thing that I want to just tease out of there is like, it's an upgrade for you. It might be that it's a completely different universe. And, this myth that we all have about like climbing this proverbial ladder because we have zero, then we're 10 years old, then we're 40, and then all of a sudden we're, up in the
I
heavens somehow. And there's this preconception that every step is someone above or beyond. And then when you get to this place of having your expansiveness, like it becomes this like cool collaboration. That's at least what I have found is like I am good at what I'm good at. And now I want to seek and learn from other people who are good at things that I'm not good at or good at things that I want to be better at. And that it like so taking it from that competitive like ladder climbing evolution to like the better it gets, the better it can get. Like sitting there as a millionaire at 25 years old is no freaking small feat. And like having that like passion for there are things I want to learn, there's people I want to learn from comes with a shadow, right? It comes with having to evolve your circle of influence, having to change the average of the 5 people that you hang out with.
Beautiful. That's exactly it. And two, it's an ongoing evolution change, if that's the right word I want to use, right? I mean, every day you got to actively work on it. It's not just a, hey, every other week I'll start to really progress myself. No, it's an everyday thing. And I think you should be taking the intentional time out of your day to really sit down, quiet your thoughts, and set those intentions and the goals so that you do get to that next place. I mean, everybody kind of, not everybody, but some folks will laugh laugh at the whole thought of manifestation. Honestly, if you start to really think about it, write down those goals and then start to put action, it then starts to turn into your reality. And it is an ongoing process that you're doing. And I would even say this is something from one of my mentors too, Nelson Nash. He always talks about how you should never hit the arrival syndrome. If you hit the arrival syndrome, you're better off as dead because you just might as well start rotting. There's so many things that we don't know, and we just need to be open to learning and listening. We don't have to implement everything that we hear, but take the things in and throw out the stuff that you're like, all right, that doesn't really pertain to me, but I'll take these little nuggets here.
Yeah, right on. If you're not growing, you're dying. One of my mentors in my early 20s, that was one of the most powerful things he said to me that I've taken with me ever since. If you're not growing, you're dying. And the other one that I took away was always be going towards something, not running away. Because that
Mhm.
propensity to like repel or kind of hide from things that might be challenging, those things are our best teachers. So when
Yeah.
you run from those things, they actually are going to recur in probably a bigger or louder way. And so when you're running away from things, you're creating more of the same. And the going towards is really identifying, like you said, that next level up for you. Like, this is where I'm reaching for the stars, and this is what I feel like is my next growth edge. If you're not growing and you're not constantly looking at that evolution, you do begin to deteriorate. Think about muscles. That's how we're built. The more often you work them, the better they get. The more time in between the work, they atrophy. It's a law of nature.
Yes. And when it's scary is when it's great. I've been
Oh,
saying that mantra to myself almost every single day. That's a new one I picked up, but I love it because here just recently I've been starting to do some new things like television appearances. That at first was scary, but once you get into them, you're like, oh my gosh, these are just other people too. We're all on the same little journey together. And it starts to become fun, and then it is great.
yes. Oh, do what's scary. What can you say again? If it's scary,
When it's scary is when it's great.
packing that up, guys. If you're out there, write this down. When it's scary, it's great. And that's been my experience, especially over the last couple of years. It's like there's new opportunities showing up more and more and more often. So having the ability to know where I'm going, what I want, and then taking that leap of faith. Oh my God, you have to have courage. You have to like feel the fear and take the jump anyway, because a lot of people, and I know I've said this quite a bit, but like when you feel the fear in not growth mode, fear is stop. But when you're in growth mode, fear is you're on the right track.
Yes.
Because if it's the same old, and it's the same linear progression of doing things that you've always done and getting results you've always gotten, you've normalized it now. It's comfortable. That's it. You're good. But when you feel that fear coming up because you've made a commitment to take a shift or a quantum leap or take a risk, that's when you know you're on target.
Yes. Yep. And don't let the perfection kill your progress too. I think about that one a lot because I'm a little perfectionist over here. I'm a little OCD. I want everything to be perfect and as it should be up to Hannah's level, but it can't, right? Even with like my book, I was not totally 100% ready to release all of these very deep personal stories. And I was like, okay, am I saying this correctly? How are people going to perceive it and take it in? But who cares? I can't be perfect for everybody, and that perfectionism is going to keep killing my progress. So that's something very deeply that I've been trying to connect with and work more towards as I keep building this empire. It's really fun. It's you, your empire, your family's empire, and that's really all that we're trying to go after is just having the time freedom back for ourselves so that we can live life on our terms, cross things off of our bucket list, send our kids to college and be there to support our communities and give back. I mean, that's really all we're really wanting to do in fighting and climbing up this empire that we are building for ourselves.
Right on. And we are the sum of our experiences that knowledge is only takes you so far. You have to have multiple experiences to be able to glean wisdom from the patterns that emerge and from the things that you start to recognize. Oh, okay, I want to create this little piece that's new. I want to, workshop, or let's unpack that one little piece of resistance where I wrote the book, I put in the personal stories, I meant for it to go out. God, but now it's actually going to go out. What are people going to say? Right? But taking that leap and saying, okay, well, why was I afraid of what people would say? Like, where is that coming from? And I think reflection is as much of the growth story as the feel the fear and take the leap,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's where we really get to acknowledge and learn who we really are as we're not inside of the moment. So
Yes.
how have you used reflection to be able to help propel you in your last decade worth of growth?
Yeah, I would say mostly it's in my decision making. Going back and looking at the decisions that I made up to this point in my life, because I'll be real, I was a terrible teenager. You did not want to have me as your teenage daughter. I'll be real. I'm still apologizing to mom and dad to this day for all the crap that I put them through. So reflecting on that is what made me who I am today. I mean, the peers and like some of the folks I still follow on social media from my high school days, it's just interesting because I was living that lifestyle that they were living during their college years. I was just doing it during my high school years. So, I can't run from what created me to be the person that I am today. And I have to be honest with myself. You got to say, hey, I made some bad decisions. I'm going around, made my apologies, and what I can do from here is just move on. I got to flip the page. I'm going to learn from these mistakes and then take this as I go forward in this journey of my life. So really, it's the bad decisions that I made in my past have really shaped how I communicate and the decisions that I'm making today. And it's totally different. It's like a 180 flip on who Hannah Kessler really is from back then when I was 14, 15 years old. So that for myself, and I would even add to just the reflection itself is important to sit down again with your thoughts. I'm a big believer too in journaling. I know some people, it's not their most favorite thing, but seriously, I like to journal, get my thoughts out there on paper, the good, the bad, the ugly, and talk with myself, be honest with myself, because if I'm not, you're right. I mean, we're just going to stay there in that ongoing process together.
I love that. And when it comes to journaling, what I have found the most useful is it has us have the requirement of slowing down our thoughts long enough to actually hear them. Because when we are thinking, you ever listen to a paraliminal? I mean, it's somebody speaking in two different channels in both ears at like 5x speed, right? You ever watched a video on 2x? You feel like you're, right?
Yeah.
That's how fast our thoughts are going. We can understand and think instantaneously, but when we have the requirement to allow ourselves to slow them down, for us to even speak them, we have to slow our thoughts down. But for us to write them down, they have to become even more slower. And maybe there's 4 or 5 words competing for a spot in that sentence, but by the time you get to it, you know which one goes there.
Yeah.
And slowing down and having the ability to witness your thoughts play out on paper, it's not the train wreck that we think that it is because our thoughts are going a million miles an hour. It's a way for us, like you said, to witness ourselves in a way that is uh, thought provoking, as well as it's like a coming home.
Yeah.
For a long time, I used Julia Cameron's morning pages as a way to kind of dump out everything that's in my head, whether or not it made sense. And I didn't need to go back and read it, but it was a way to just prime the pump, to get the hand moving. And if I was singing, a song, I would write down the lyrics, whatever comes to mind. This is one way that you can start the journaling process if it's not something you're already familiar with. But over time, it becomes more comfortable to listen to your own thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts are divinely inspired. So it's not just having a meeting with yourself, it's connecting to your higher power as well. So super profound. Love that tool. And I'm sure I'm going to ask this question next that's on everybody's lips. Like, How the hell did you become a millionaire by the time you were 25? All the inquiring minds want to know. So tell us how you did it.
Absolutely. Hey, and one thing, let me just share with the listeners too. What got me into journaling was actually purchasing myself a gratitude journal. And that really helped me. A daily gratitude journal, that really got me into the mindset and the mode to start journaling almost every single day. So, love, I would even just start there too. So, how did I get here? It's a journey, but Cliff Notes version. So actually I was working at one of my dad's chiropractic offices right when I was 14 and got fired from that, but conversation for another time. I was so distraught after I got fired. So I went online that night and I found a help wanted ad from Cracker Barrel. So then I put in my application. That next day, I had an interview, and I still remember with Charlie, who was my manager back in the time, and I got the job. And back then, I was doing a little bit of school. I was going to a community college in Kansas City, and then also doing my Cracker Barrel gig on the side too. And then I was doing that and I loved it. So let me tell you, I loved being a waitress. It was a lot of fun connecting with people. And it was also fun too because I could determine how much I was making based on how quickly I was turning my tables, how good of a job I was doing taking care of my tables, right? And the cool thing about Cracker Barrel, I don't know if they still do this today, but you did not tip share there. Everything that I made went to me. So that was kind of my first introduction of not first, right? But myself being an entrepreneur because I could control how much I was making with the effort and the energy I was putting into flipping my tables. So I was doing that for some time. And then Pops called me up one day and he says, "Hey, Hannah, I need help in my business. And if you're not going to help me, I'll go find someone else." I was like, "Okay, Dad, well, what do you want me to do?" Because I know I'm still trying to figure it out. I didn't know if I wanted to go and pursue being like an accountant, go in that CPA direction. I have a big passion for fashion design. Fashion design, I would love to do it, but, going out there, racking up all that student loan debt, then going and finding myself like a 45, 50 a year job. I mean, I'm kind of working backwards in that sense. So I was like, I don't think I really want to do that. And I was like, "Okay, Dad, well, what do you want me to do? How can I help you?" And that's when I started working within my father's business, the Money Multiplier. And I was on the application team, helping folks go through the process and getting approved for their life insurance policies. So that's where I really started at the ground zero of the application team. And I really learned this business of the life insurance industry from the ground up, working with the underwriters, then moving up, being Dad's assistant. I would travel all around the country with him. I was his tech girl. He's not very great with technology, so I'd set him up for his presentations, help him in the back of the room, collecting all the papers. And then it got to the point, this was actually right after COVID, live events kind of stopped, but then they started to pick back up around, I would say, March, February of 2021. And there was an event. He's a real estate investor, does a lot of mobile home parks. And he says, "Hey, we got this event going on in Scottsdale, Arizona. Can you come and speak at this?" And Dad couldn't do it. So he turns to me and he says, "Hey, you've been doing some webinars for us. Now's the time that we're going to take your floaties off and you're going to go out to Scottsdale and you're going to speak to all of these real estate investors." Let me tell you, I was very nervous that first time. I woke up so early that morning in the Airbnb and I practiced the presentation like 2 times. When I knew it, I would do it on webinars all the time, but live, it's a lot different. So, I mean, I crushed it. I'll just be honest. It was so fun. It was so good. I loved it. And ever since then, I now travel around and I speak on the different stages, do the podcast show, guest on other podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. But where I started out is that Dad really taught me what it means to be your own banker and take back the control of your money. To be honest with you, it's like he almost forced me to start my whole life policy. And I started this policy when I was 18 years old. Now, these policies, okay, they have to be designed specifically for high immediate cash value for the infinite banking concept. And how I sum it up just in very easy layman terms is my whole life policies, they are nothing more than just my glorified savings accounts. That's really how, still to this day, how I think about them. And so when I turned 18 years old, Dad says, all right, now that you're 18, you can own your own policy. We're going to drive down to Commerce Bank in Kansas City. You're going to close your savings account and you're going to start your first policy, $400 a month. And back at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, 400 a month in this stupid life insurance policy. Okay, Dad, sure. But I just trusted him. I knew where Dad was at. And I was like, okay, I know you won't lead me down the bad road. So let me just follow you here. And how we landed on 400 a month is because at my Cracker Barrel job, I was saving up about $100 a week, 400 a month. So that's where I started my first policy at. And as time went on, my income was rising from me being in this business with Dad, being on the application team, speaking and doing those things. And I really learned more and more about how I don't want to leave my money in the banks. I don't just want to put it into a 401k or an annuity or a CD and lock it up somewhere. I don't want to be involved in the markets personally. I want to control what risks that I take with my money. So as time went on, I kept starting more and more policies as my cash flow was growing, and I had a need to keep warehousing more of that monies inside of my policies rather than just leaving it down at the local bank where the bankers are making a good living off of my money. So I'm just flipping the script on them. I'm making my deposits into my bank, and then through my privatized banking system, I'm the one who makes those interests, the profits, the dividends on myself rather than the bankers making it on me. So really, policies have always been my baseline. This is my warehouse of my wealth, is what I like to call it. And then through my policies, I first got into lending. I love private lending in the real estate space because, just to be real, I'm a lazy investor. Okay. I'm busy, building my brand, building my business and different things. So lending, I love it because I had the capital. I use the capital from my policies, and I have the capital in my policies because I'm disciplined with the money. I would say mindset and the habits and the discipline are always number one when it comes to anything about money. And then through my policies, I would go and lend it out to those different borrowers. And my borrowers are paying me anywhere from 12 to 16% to use my money. So essentially, I'm the banker in my own life, and I'm also the banker in those other people's lives as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm up to just right now, lending. And then 2025, we're dabbling into some more things.
Nice. Well, high five, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And I love how your first savings vehicle really it came from this depth of knowledge and wisdom that helped you to get ahead very quickly. Because most of us out here, that we go and we do our thing, we figure out our life, and then we figure out the savings later, right? I grew up in a family where, money was a discipline and you didn't buy what you couldn't afford. And so, the concept of taking on debt was really scary in our family. I had to come to terms with, as a real estate investor, like leverage and being able to borrow and feel really good about it. So for me, real estate has been that space where, I did my first investment as a private money lender as well, just to kind of dip my toe in the water and get some exposure to people who had a different perspective. And so for me, that was like, oh, I can have multiple streams of income doing this. I can go do the acquisition and get the rental income. I can go and deploy the funds and earn interest income. I can be a consultant and I can help people put the teams together and earn overrides so that people can find people quicker and get deals done. So I love that your foundation, your warehouse, is a financial instrument that a lot of people don't understand. So because you are like the queen of this, how can people connect with you and where can they go to find you to learn more?
Yes. So hannahkessler.com is a great place. Hannah spelled the same ways forwards and backwards, Kessler with one S, and also on my podcast show, the Money Multiplier Podcast.
Awesome. Well, we are so grateful you came here to talk to us, me, and everybody listening. Let us know in the comments what's been most powerful for you, and we want to know, what is moving the needle for you in this age of disruption. Because life insurance isn't just life insurance anymore, ladies and gents. You heard it from Hannah right here directly. This is what's building her wealth actively right now and giving her that foundation to do even more. So reach out to her, and we are so grateful to have you here on Rise and Shine. We broadcast every single Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you click the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss another conversation. Thank you so much. This was a powerhouse of a conversation, lady. Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Thank you. And I'll be seeing you soon, okay?
Sounds great. And everybody, we will see you next time, friends. Same bat time and same bat channel. Peace out.